More than 40 artists are facing possible displacement from their workspace in Dorchester. The current owners of Humphreys Street Studios near Upham's Corner have reached a pre-sale agreement with a new buyer that leaves many questions about the property's future. But what's known already is that the location is near a commuter rail stop, one more hotspot for new housing production and rising costs, and one more place where artists could be priced out. Joining us are two of the artists from the complex trying for a different outcome, set designer Cristina Todesco and digital fabricator Stephenson. I'd like to thank you both very much for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Jem, the typical story when artists do end up being displaced is that they find another location if there's something comparable. But what about this location? Is there something comparable anywhere near it?
I really don't think so. I mean, I've been looking, unfortunately, just because of the state that we're in right now. And there's really nothing around anywhere in Boston proper, greater Boston. The type of community that's developed here is something that's extremely unique that I feel is near impossible, if not impossible, to recreate in another location.
Cristina, what about the mix of activities here? Because there are some things that look as if maybe they could be done in your own bedroom, but there are some other things that look as if they need an industrial setting.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have so many different kinds of artists here. We have light industrial artists, meaning we have forgers, metal workers, stone carvers. We also have graphic designers who have quite a bit of equipment. We have woodworkers, cabinet makers, jewelry makers, painters. It really runs the gamut. And just to emphasize on what Jem said, it's taken 20 years to build what we have here. And that's not easy to do again anywhere else. It's a quite a unique property with unique people. So it would be very expensive, if not impossible, to recreate this kind of situation. And they are creative small businesses. We also hire each other to do things. There is a lot of cross-pollination within our community of using each other's services. So it is unique in that way.
Sure. What about that chemistry? How has it affected your work?
Oh, that's a great question. So brief story. So when I moved here in 2019, the shop that I was able to move into had sort of like a woodworking type vibe. There might have been a couple of tenants there. When I was able to take over the lease of this particular shop, was able to put in a lot of different small businesses that sort of complement each other, for design, for manufacture, for documentation. We have photo studios, we have graphic designers, we have printmakers, woodworkers, interior designers, photographers, garment fabricators. And all these were sort of carefully selected to sort of join this shop. And we work together to not only complement each other's business, provide each other with the services that each individual person might not do, and work together to service larger client requirements that each person might not be able to service themselves. So it's been a lot of careful planning, a lot of careful research as to what we need, and implementing that and building the infrastructure around that. And I mean, it's been amazing, the type of things that we've been able to do. And it's just, I can't think of what would happen if something like this were to not exist. Again, this is full time for so many of us here that, yeah, it's hard to think about.
Cristina, one thing the artists have been doing in recent months is working with a potential development partner that's more mission driven, but at the same time, there's another buyer who has stepped in. There's a purchase and sale agreement. It looks as if days are numbered here. How does that feel right now?
Well, it's scary. The purchase and sale is scheduled for July 5th, and we are just motivating ourselves to continue these last few days and trying to get the word out more and more to people, just to raise awareness, red flags to people that one of the last affordable studio workspaces for artists could disappear, and forever. I mean, again, to rebuild something like this in the current economy is impossible. So we are trying very hard to speak with as many neighbors, politicians, local business owners, people who are around us here in Upham's Corner. And it's a rich, diverse community. And we want to be here and we want to be a part of the fabric of this community.
John, speaking of community fabric, over the years, things that came out of these studios have, literally, taken their place near Ashmont Station in Nubian Square. How important is that?
I think it's huge, honestly. I think that for us to be able to have such an impact on the community is something that's huge, and it's very telling to the types of and the caliber of people that work and use this space. Actually, Joe Wheelwright was the previous owner was one of the previous owners of Humphrey Street, and actually
Founder,
the
yeah.
occupant of my current shop, and just a very accomplished stone sculptor and wood sculptor. And I mean, yeah, you said Ashmont Station, he's done that. He's done a lot of other things around the city and around probably the country. And to be able to see his work and be to sort of work in space that he used to, it sort of gives you a lot of motivation to achieve and to do better and to really refine and have really great work. And then not just us, it's Joel Warwell. There's a lot of other artists here who are acclaimed artists that have been utilizing the space for some for a short period of time, some for very long periods of time. And I think that community fabric and is something that does exist, and something that we are really trying to continue to grow and continue to connect with the people around us. And it's just, I do want to say one thing too, like Boston is an innovation economy. It's supposedly, like Silicon Valley of the Northeast or whatever. And creativity and innovation at its root starts in the creative economy. And to be able to take that away, I'm thinking like we're gonna have a downsize. That doesn't seem like scaling in the right direction. To think, oh my goodness, you can go to your bedroom and you're like, come on, man. That's not really scaling.
Cristina, what about scale? Because the city has been keeping an eye on this and trying to help, and thinking about a patchwork array of measures that could help save the studios. But at the same time, is there a bigger policy change that's needed? Because we keep hearing the story over and over again about artists being displaced.
Yeah, I mean, the city has been very supportive. It is a private sale though, and there's only so much they can do. And Cara Elliott Ortega has been, with us for 8 months, close to a year now, meeting with us.
She's the head of arts and culture.
Yeah, chief of arts and culture, and she, sometimes she has met us weekly, depending on what's going on. She provided us money for a feasibility study, which would investigate financing, how we sustain ourselves, how we preserve ourselves. It would investigate, again, financing, a governance model, and some of the environmental concerns in this property. It was a former dry cleaning facility, so there are chemicals on the property, in the soil, and that is all we've been trying to do, is to create a with this feasibility study, create a picture for us that would would provide us this, a safe place, an affordable place to be. So she's been super helpful.
Jem, I know you and Cristina and all the other artists, you have your fingers crossed, but aside from that, what's next?
Wow, that's a question that like I wish I had all the answers to.
Mm.
I've learned in the time that I've been here, there've been a lot of, interesting things going on in the world and in, the country and things like that since I've actually moved in here since 2019, as we all know. I've learned that you have to keep your head down, keep on pushing. I mean, if you can't stop. Of course, there's a lot of risk that's associated with that. Also, you have to, gauge those risks to say, what is it that I really do need to do? I mean, there's so much stuff that I think there's left to be done in this space, and like a lot of times, like I feel almost hesitant to go ahead and execute just because of the fact that like you don't really know what's going to happen. Oh, am I building this for 6 months of being here, or am I building this for 5-10 years?
Jem, one thing I want to
keep your head
ask you, you say you came here just a couple of years ago. I suppose you could have gone somewhere else. So why did you pick this place?
That's a very good question. I think that the reason I picked this place, first of all, I think the community is great. I'm coming into it already, like if you go rent a warehouse somewhere, you don't have the community. You're just there by your lonesome. I think just the physical structure of the studio that we are working in is very conducive to community engagement and for even creating a community around the people who actually use the space and rent and actually have studio spaces here. I think it being in the heart of Boston is extremely important. Being in the neighborhoods and being in the urban neighborhoods is great. A lot of the people who rent from me, live around, and it could be hard for them to, let's say, commute to, I don't know, Lynn or somewhere. If you find some space, maybe the same type of pricing. That's just and you lose a lot. So I think that the community here is great. The positioning of this place is great. I do woodwork, fabrication, laser cutting, all those types of things. We have a Home Depot right there. South Bay Plaza is right there. So it's like the perfect place to have a space like this. And when I said before, like you can't really find any other places like this. It's not just about, the building, or it's not just about, we have the artists. It's not just about, the placement. It's about all those things combined. And then like the actual individual people who you have there, what's telling about like what's going to happen if that gets broken up somehow. This is something that was cultivated for years. You're not going to get that back, even if you have other people.
Mhm.
I'd like to thank you both very much for helping us understand the chemistry here and for joining us this morning. Cristina Todesco and Jem Stephenson from Humphreys Street Studios. We'll have more news in just a moment.